Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and as you may notice, I'm going to lower this a bit. I am standing in front of my whiteboard, and no, I am not doing another comparison and opinion video. It's Heartland week, and I have not read the books, so I can't do a comparison and opinion for the characters, plus they're kind of very similar. But I thought that I would talk about an episode that I believe is the episode that could have almost ended Heartland. It didn't, but it could have. I'm going to be talking about season 14, episode 4, and that whole chlorine tank thing. So, as we know, Heartland is not a stranger to near-death situations. They have had car accidents, plane accidents, a motorcycle accident. They've had a tornado. They've had a very terminal illness. They've had many accidents and severe head injuries quite a few times. Multiple times, in fact, and they've gone really close to killing off an actual character. Oh, not to mention Tiny got shot in season 13. And then this season, they actually did kill off one of Heartland's beloved characters, Ty. Now, of course, as far as season 14, when season 14 came out, I didn't know how many episodes there was going to be, so I read an article that there was going to be 10 episodes. And then I watched episode 4, and I'm like, if they were going to end the series, this would be a really good way to end the series, but it'd be a bad way to end the series. I have watched enough TV shows to know how series end. So, started the first TV show I ever watched, Little House and Prey. Pretty much how this show ended was, it was cancelled. This gives me a chance to use my new eraser, yay! It was cancelled, so Michael Landon decided to do some movies. So he did the last 3 movies, and then they pretty much blew up the entire town, which I've cried every single time I watch a movie. It is very sad because they blew up the entire town, and that's like no way to end this show. I mean, you could have had where they have to leave Walnut Grove, but you don't have to blow up the town, come on. The Waldens, they end really weirdly and abruptly. The show cancelled. Of course, the last scene we do see the Baldwin sisters talking about what they've been through the past, I just threw my marker, 8 years. And that one kind of ends really weirdly. Roach Heavenly ends perfectly, good way. Now, of course, those of you who have seen the episode, you know what happens. Train derails and a tank of propane blows up. And they have to evacuate Hudson because of what's in another tank. So you know that this could have almost ended Heartland, because what was in that tank was enough to blow up the entire town of Hudson and the surrounding area. And what was in that tank was chlorine gas. And the reason I'm on my whiteboard is because I'm going to get really sciencey and chemistry, so that's why I thought I explained it. This is not my first science video. I did a video on TV genetics you can go watch. But yeah, so pretty much, let's start with propane. So we do know that the train of propane exploded. Now, of course, propane is a gas. So, like all gases, it is flammable, which, as we can tell by that episode. Of course, propane is a hydrocarbon. So for those of you who don't know what hydrocarbons are, hydrocarbon is a gas made up of any number of carbon and hydrogen. So those of you who know science, you know that there's a periodic table. Why am I using my cloth? I have an eraser. And on that table is certain elements. Carbon and hydrogen are both on there. Hydrogen is a gas, carbon is a solid, but when they form a gas. Now, of course, propane is made up of 3 carbon and 8 hydrogen. Of course, now, there's ionic and molecular compounds. This is a molecular compound. So if we were doing the scientific name, this would technically be tricarbon octahydride, but because it has a common use name known as propane, we don't use the scientific name. Now, of course, because propane is a gas, you can die from it. But that only comes in certain ways. If you puncture a propane tank or burn it and it explodes near the vicinity, you can probably die. But the most common way people die from propane tanks is from carbon monoxide poisoning, and that comes from using propane tanks and like heaters and stuff inside a room or a tent. And the reason that occurs is because of incomplete combustion. So now this is where you might get lost. Okay, so when hydrocarbons burn, they burn with oxygen, which exists as O2, forming carbon dioxide and water. I really should balance that, but I am not going to. And this is called a complete combustion because carbon dioxide and water are formed. Well, and water exists as a gas, so it would be water vapor. Of course, these are all gases. But there is such a thing as incomplete combustion. And when that occurs, you're still burning your hydrocarbon. You don't get carbon dioxide, you get carbon monoxide and water. And we all know that carbon dioxide is odorless, colorless, and very deadly. We all have carbon monoxide detectors in our home. And of course, the way that this would occur is if there's not enough oxygen to burn the propane or whatever gas you're using, and this is where you kind of get your limiting and your excessing. If there isn't enough oxygen or all of it is used up, then you will get carbon monoxide instead of carbon dioxide, causing you to die. Now, of course, unless you get out the right way. Propane, because it is a gas, and you can inhale propane. I don't know why you would. Very stupid. Do not inhale propane. But our lungs and what when we breathe carbon dioxide, but we take in oxygen, and that's how we live. That's kind of biology and photosynthesis. So the oxygen in our body turns into carbon dioxide. So if we inhale propane, we are pretty much replacing the oxygen in our body with propane, causing us to die. Now, of course, chlorine gas also exists in nature. Now, of course, it is an element on the periodic table, Cl, and it is a gas on the periodic table, but it is a very, very dangerous and deadly gas. Now, of course, we do see chlorine in multiple different stages. Like we have hydrochloric acid, which is in our bodies that breaks down food, and we have sodium chloride, better known as salt, which we put on our food. So, if chlorine is so dangerous, why does chlorine exist naturally that we can still digest it and intake it and not die? Because of compounds and everything. So when a molecular compound forms, they're sharing the electrons. Of course, chlorine and then ionic compounds are transferring the electrons. But of course, chlorine can exist by itself as a diatomic ion, which means it exists as Cl2, which is also a gas. And as for chlorine being really deadly, I think that becomes with the amount of electrons, because there are such a thing as noble gases, which include helium, krypton, xenon, argon, neon, and the reason that they are stable is because of the octet rule, which means that they have a full valence electron shell where chlorine doesn't. Now, of course, we do know chlorine to be deadly, as the Germans did use chlorine gas during the First World War. So, the tank that they had was full of chlorine. Now, of course, why would a train have chlorine? Probably because it was transported to a lab or some kind of industry that uses chlorine or something like that. Now, of course, Tim was right. If that chlorine tank did explode, it would go kaboom. Entire town of Hudson and Heartland wiped out. this episode could have almost been the end of Heartland, but because, and it makes sense, but they decide that everyone gets out eventually and the chlorine gas tank doesn't explode, so it's just another close to death moment we've had with Heartland. So, thank you for watching. That's going to be pretty much it for this video. Be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, comment down below what you think the episode that could have almost ended Heartland was. There's probably others, and you might think this one wasn't, but there was another one. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. And stay tuned for tomorrow's video, where I will be doing a video on Ty and Amy. Yeah. Alright, see you.